Substance use and addiction is a disease that impacts families, regardless of background, race, gender, or social status. It happens with a vast range of outcomes, the worst of which is loss of life. We had the opportunity to interview a few parents that have experienced this devastation and have turned that loss into hope for others.
Timothy was our only son, 23 years old. He passed away from a heroin overdose after struggling with a prescription and heroin drug addiction.
This is my son, Jake Koningsdorf. He died last July 13th of 2013. He was 21 years old.
This is Thomas Ventura. He was 2 weeks short of his 22nd birthday when he passed. Some say heroin overdose. He died due to the disease of addiction.
Well, Megan was beautiful. I mean, she was a smart young woman, an athlete. She was a national rower. She had many IVs looking at her as far as coming to their schools.
Well, Adam was my son. He was 23 years old when he passed away from suicide.
My son Maxwell was a very loving, kind-hearted person. He was my only child. He was very considerate and caring about other people's needs and always wanting to help someone.
Timothy was a very fun-loving, comedic, compassionate guy. He went to a local Catholic school and a local university where he was an A student and believed in no drugs, no drinking, and no alcohol.
Let me tell you a little bit about Jake. Jake's story is the most common story you're going to find in the 21 to 25-year-old range right now. In high school, he started using OxyContin. He became addicted within the first year. We did not know about it. He came home and he told me one day, I have an OxyContin addiction, and I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that meant I was supposed to do. And we started the battle that many, many families today on Long Island are battling. And his addiction only lasted 2.5 years. He died after a medical injury where he was put on Percocets in a hospital before I could get to the hospital to tell him he was an opiate addict in recovery. And he died 3 weeks after that from one injection of heroin.
Adam suffered from bipolar. He was diagnosed when he was 18 years old with his first attempt at suicide. Also using drugs, and from there on it was the system that took over. It was the system that took care of the illness but not the person.
Thomas was born on March 28th, a very happy, content baby, grew into an adventurous boy. He is the middle of 3 children. He was an All-American lacrosse player. Very, as I said, very adventurous, loved to be outside, loved to play with Nerf guns with all the boys in the neighborhood, played PAL football, an outstanding athlete. And somewhere along in, I would say, 10th grade, started to dabble, and his gateway drug was marijuana.
Everybody loved Jake. Jake was brilliant. He had 134 IQ. He was an ADD kid, so he had to rein that in a lot. He was the kind of guy that every one of his friends came to. Jake was the one, everyone who needed advice, they came to Jake. Jake counseled everybody. Jake just couldn't counsel himself. And when he found OxyContin, it made him, quote unquote, feel like he thought everybody else felt, that security. And it very quickly got out of his control, and like most addicts, they don't know it's coming. They think it's no big deal. They're high school kids. They experiment. It's part of growing up. And it took them over really, really fast. And when we found out what was happening, we did what people recommended, and we pulled back a little bit. We pulled back some resources, and that's when our kids find street heroin, because it's less than 1/5 of the cost of opiates on the street.
Thomas went from being the All-American boy to a mean, deviant thief who would do anything to get his next fix. Heroin took over his body, mind, and soul, and that was the addict that I dealt with. When Thomas wasn't high, I saw glimpses of my son.
By the time a parent becomes aware that there's an issue with their child, the child's way beyond what they're seeing. When it gets that obvious, they've been doing this for a while because they're real good at hiding what they feel about themselves, how they're medicating themselves. The prevention is #1 key, and that is going to change for a lot of people with the I-Stop law and other things. The pills that were on the street every day in huge amounts, it's not there anymore. So our younger kids are safer. The biggest problem, the most common thing I found, is what we've done to the children in this age group. They play t-ball and nobody loses. They go to school and everybody plays on a team. There's no winners, there's no losers. Our kids, my son, didn't know how to fail. He was taught that everyone is okay. And when you get older and life smacks you in the face and you have to take some hard looks at who you are and what your deficits are, they're not prepared for that.
Well, Megan was on her way to an Ivy League school. She was, like I said, a national rower, and took a wrong turn in her senior year of high school. Became very depressed and went on to lose that Ivy League school entrance because she was a national rower, and fell into a severe depression. Stayed home, went to college here, and started to use drugs in college with the drinking.
Our kids have to experience life. They have to understand that they don't win every day. They have to know winning, but they have to know failure too. They don't have the same safety we grew up with either. 9/11 changed everything for everybody. We were always safe in our own backyard. Our kids aren't safe anymore. They grow up with fear. So if they grow up with fear and they don't grow up with coping skills, you've got the perfect storm for someone to hand them a pill that numbs everything in their world. And one pill leads to two. It's a perfect storm that's existed for these people. But coming up, there's going to be much more awareness because everyone's talking about heroin now. They're talking about opiate addiction now. The pills are pulling back. It is going to change.
People need to let go of the stigma. There is no stigma with the disease of addiction. There are so many people that are affected by this. You need to let it go, and you just need to be, you could be standing on a soccer field and the parent next to you could be going through the same thing. Let it go, find help, find support, and it should be, why not my child? Don't think that you're immune to this disease.
After my son's passing, I did not want him to be another statistic. I felt that his passing, I needed to turn it into something positive because I just could not let his life be gone, because this is happening to so many families. And through my pain, I needed to do something, and that's why I started my organization, my nonprofit.
After Timothy's death, we decided that we needed to speak out in Timmy's voice. Timothy would have wanted that. So we joined Long Island Council for Alcoholism and Drug Dependency, and we created Push Long Island. Push Long Island is People United to Stop Heroin on Long Island. We decided to group together with parents of Long Island who are struggling with addiction in their families and make a push to stop this epidemic.
I hope that by doing this, that it will increase awareness, and it actually helps me because I'm helping other people, and I'm keeping his name alive. It's keeping his memory alive, although it may not be in a positive sense, but it will be a positive sense when one life is saved and increased awareness is brought about.
The Jake Koningsdorf Foundation's main purpose is to assist the willing into recovery, to get them what they can't get anyplace else, to give them that chance at a recovery life.
The Fallen on Long Island, NY is just a Facebook page where you can come, get information, you can speak with other parents that have lost their children, you can get medical information. If you get in touch with me, my number's there. I will absolutely send you to people that can handle the situation. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I've experienced the loss of a really wonderful child, and I'll listen to you.
My advice to parents is to have a conversation every day, a deep conversation. Let them talk to you and then listen again to what they just said to you.
No, well, the message I want to get at is this is a pandemic, not an epidemic. It's all over the world. I get calls from all over the world to Adam's Hope House. You could find that on Facebook also. And the message is that it could be your child, it could be your brother, it could be your sister. It has no boundaries. It crosses everything. Mental illness, drug abuse, the heroin epidemic. It's It's real. You have to listen to your children. They're telling you. You just really have to pay attention to their words because they are telling you what's going on. And we tend not to we don't want to really hear those words, the pain and the suffering and the stress, but they're real and they can't be ignored because you will wake up one day and your child won't be there. And then you'll be going through your head saying, wait a minute, I should have paid attention to this. I should have heard him, her, when they said this. It's in those moments, you can't get them back.